Good morning. I hope everyone's enjoying their wonderful breakfast. I'm Keith King, and I'm honored to serve on the board of Insight Counseling Centers. Wonderful board. And welcome to those that are joining us virtually. On behalf of my fellow board members, the Insight staff, and most importantly, our clients, thank you for joining us this morning. Insight has an important mission: to restore lives to wholeness mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. In a few moments, you are going to hear from Insight therapists as well as a client. Their words will paint a picture of important life-changing care that Insight provides. Before we continue with our program, I'd like to recognize our board chair, Karen Montgomery. Karen, will you please stand? And now I'd like all the Insight board members, past and present, to please stand. And I know we've got a few board members also watching on the live stream. Jared Porter, I'm talking to you. So we want to thank you all for being here and for your support as well. Now it is my pleasure to invite to the stage the Reverend Dr. Thomas Kleinhardt, and an Insight board member and senior pastor and presenting sponsor, Vine Street Christian Church.
Thank you, and thank all of you for being here and for joining us online for this event. I'm still in this mode where when I see real faces, you know, it's still all new and wonderful. So I'm just thrilled to see you and not stare at a screen. I have 2.5 minutes, so what am I gonna say? I want to tell you about Kane Tanaka. Kane Tanaka was the oldest known person in the world when she died back in April of this year at age 119. So Kane had lived through 2 world wars, 2 bouts of cancer, and 2 pandemics, 2 global pandemics. And in 2019, when asked by a reporter what was her happiest moment in life, she looked at him and said, "Now." When I read that, I thought, yeah, we don't measure fullness of life in years. 119 is a lot. But somehow fullness is not really measurable. But I also know that somehow that notion of fullness is contained in what moved Kane to say, "Now." Vine Street Christian Church and Insight Counseling Centers share a deep commitment to serving human flourishing, to serving fullness of life for all people in this community and beyond. And we know, all of us know that, when we can't say a wholehearted, full yes to life because of trauma, because of loss, because of illness or relationship issues, we know that mental health professionals can help us find our way to a new yes. And so we are proud to partner with Insight in the work of bringing wholeness to this community and to all the communities beyond that we touch through our work. And on behalf of all the lives that are being touched through the work of Insight Counseling Centers, I want to say thank you for your generous support. And now I invite you to join me in prayer, those of you who do this kind of thing. Holy One, in whom we live and move and have our being, we thank you for your gift of life, and for your faithful presence. Bless our time together this morning, that our fellowship and the stories we share may inspire us to join you in your healing and reconciling work. May your compassion and generosity gently mold all of us until our life together reflects your glory, and all people say yes to life with every breath. Thank you for our food and for those who have grown, prepared, and served it. We bless your holy name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. We're so grateful to Vine Street Christian Church for your ongoing loyalty to Insight's important mission. And hello to everyone gathered here, and for those of you at home as well. My name is Pam Brown. It's my honor to serve as Executive Director of Insight Counseling Centers. I know you have many demands on your time, and I'm grateful that you've chosen to spend a part of your morning with us today. This is our 4th annual Journey to Wholeness event, and it feels so good to be gathered in person again after 2 years of only virtual. And I'd like to give a shout out to Justin Holder. Justin is a member of the Development and Marketing Committee at Insight, and he's donated his time, equipment, and expertise so that we can have the live stream option. So Justin, thank you so much for that. And I did, as you said, I did not trip over the cord on the way up. So I still have to get down, but so far so good. Thank you for your help, and thank you to Karen Stevens, who handled so many of the logistics for our event this morning. I'd like to also acknowledge my Insight colleagues who are here today. Carol Smith, Bridget Carrillo, and Megan Kaczynski came early and greeted you. Monet Shell is here as well, and Abby Culbertson was here bright and early to assist Justin with the live stream. And you're going to meet 2 more of my colleagues in just a few minutes. We are grateful to our Journey to Wholeness sponsors, whose generosity has ensured that all dollars raised today will go directly to support clients who rely on our income-based fee scale. You've already heard from Dr. Kleinert representing Vine Street Christian Church. Our benefactor sponsor is Aegis Sciences Corporation. Our partner sponsors are CAT Financial and HCA Healthcare TriStar Health. Our friend sponsors are Ascension St. Thomas Rutherford, Craft CPAs, LBMC Employment Partners, Pinnacle Financial Services, and Daryl and Francine Lane. Our supporter sponsors are Clinic Tracker, Sandra Curry, E. Nash Associates, Inman Industrial, Jared Porter, and Porter Road Butchers. Please join me in thanking these generous sponsors who believe mental health services should be affordable to all. Because of their generosity, all dollars raised today will support clients who rely on our income-based fee scale. Join me in thanking them. And it's my pleasure now to introduce another Insight colleague of mine, therapist Joshua Medeiros gets the prize for furthest miles traveled today. He comes to us from Clarksville, Tennessee, where he sees clients in the office and via telehealth. And he's going to share about his reflections on how his work supports our agency's important mission. Josh, come on up.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you again to all of you who are here and attending with us online. Get a few minutes today. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is really to answer 3 things. One is why we do what we do. And the reason I begin with the why is because what I've come to understand in being at Insight is that the why is what drives all of the decisions that are made. And I love the word, we are created to flourish, and human flourishing is exactly what we promote at Insight, both mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And restoring people to wholeness guides the decisions that we're able to make. I'll give you a statistic. I'll be the one to cite the first one, is counselors have a half-life 7 years. And that's you won't find people that get into counseling because they don't have a spirit for it, because they want to serve, they want to do good in the world. It takes 9 years to get an education and licensed as a counselor. And so often that spirit of giving and charity and bringing people to flourish is in spite of the organizations that they get to work for. And it is such an honor and a blessing to be able to work with Insight, who from the core promotes that sense of charity and openness to all those who need our assistance. And it's not just the people that come into our offices that are served. Well, they are a focus. We're able to work, as we said, via telehealth. And I'll share a quick story. I've been able to work with a gentleman recently who hasn't been able to leave his home. And for the last 3 months, hasn't been able to look out a window. And got the opportunity last week to be a witness that he was able to walk outside during a session in his home via telehealth for the first time in 3 months without having a panic attack. To be able to provide healing to those who aren't otherwise able to access this type of care, both through the income-based fee scale and through our outreach via telehealth to any client who would like our assistance in the state of Tennessee, is such a gift. Not only that, most of the time, a lot of the time, the people that we serve aren't the people we would identify as a client. I'll share another story. I had a young man, and I say young man, he's 5, a 5-year-old in my office, and he was brought in by mom and dad because they'd recently suffered the loss of the family pet, and they were concerned because he was saying things like, "I wish I wasn't alive." As a parent, that is a hard thing to hear from a 5-year-old. And so after doing some work with him, with some pictures, he said, "I have to go to the bathroom." I said, "Be my guest." And so he got up and walked out of the room and snuck back to the waiting room, retrieved his mom and brought him back to the therapy room. "Did you go to the bathroom? Hang on." And he proceeded to show his mom the pictures that he had laid out on the desk in front of him and pointed to them and said why he'd chosen that picture and what it meant. And when pointing to one picture in particular of a little boy on a hill with a sun behind him, said, "I chose this one," quote, "because I love my life." That little boy was my client, but I promise you that mom is the one that received the bulk of the therapy that day, hearing that from her son. And the therapy and the work that we get to do, integrating not just the individual, their emotional and spiritual health, but the health of their families, it impacts the communities in which they live. It impacts the lives of the people that they work with. And so the support that is given here for the individuals that come to seek our help extends far beyond the office walls. And this, as is said before and will be reiterated again, is in no small part due to the support and the generosity of our partners at Insight. And it is such a gift to be able to do the work that I do. And I know I speak for other therapists at Insight as well when I say that it is a gift to work with Insight to be able to offer this. And I want to, again, thank you all for not only being here this morning, but for your support of us financially, spiritually, and emotionally as we do this great work. Thank you again.
Thank you, Joshua. And I'm sure our audience agrees that you've underscored the importance of Insight's work. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Jordan Malone. Jordan is an Insight therapist who began her journey with us as an intern, and she's a published poet. Jordan, thank you for sharing one of your original works with us.
Good morning. Just thank you for this opportunity to be able to share my poetry. Before I was a therapist, pre-licensed marriage and family therapist, before I went to school, I wrote, and poetry was my therapy. Just like a lot of our clients I see, there are creatives, right? And so they try other ways before they even get to therapy. So This is also spiritual, this poem that I'm going to read to you all, because a lot of clients also pull on different strengths that they also have, spiritual strengths, their physical strengths, families. So I'm going to read to you a poem called Continue the Race Ahead of Me, where I pull on my own spiritual strength along with my physical strength as a reminder. Lord, there have been times that I thought about quitting the race ahead of me, retreat and not have faith. I was caught up in the now. I was anxious because I wanted things to change, yet I didn't know how. I didn't know how things get better. I didn't know how things get right. I wanted to drown myself in my problem, depress and cry myself to sleep every night. I didn't care that there were those there to encourage me along the way, to read my word, to trust and obey. I figured that retreating, backing down from the race was the best way to go. But that shows you how much I know. I tried my way, and of course I stayed in brokenness. No way could heal my wounds and get me out of my mess. No way but the way, the only way, Jesus. If I would take advantage of the gift of life that he so freely gives, he could be mine and I could be his. If I would confess that I tried other ways to heal, yet stayed in brokenness. If I would believe in my heart that he sacrificed his life so that I could be set free from my sin, saved from hell, and have the Holy Spirit within. If I would trust and give my life to the one who gave his own, when I have my mess, my trials and tribulations, I won't be alone. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves me, how he loves me so much because he chose me before I chose him. So much so that he gave our life for our sin before we chose him back then. The love he has for us to not leave us deserted, for us to abide in him, to lean on him when we are hurting. That's the type of love that no one else can provide. It comes from the ones that look low, yet sit high. I'm thankful for those times that I thought about quitting, to throw in the towel and receive all the hell that I was getting. It made me understand the power of God's love, to send his only son from above, to take our place on the cross, to save me, to save the lost. The times made me stronger in my walk. It made me grateful for Jesus, and it made me want to live for him for a number of reasons. Because he first loved me. Therefore, I will keep the faith and I will continue the race ahead of me. Thank you all. Again, thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you, Jordan. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Can you give another round of applause for that? And as you all know, mental health is unfairly stigmatized in our society, which really creates barriers to care for people that actually need support, which I think is a lot of us, including myself. So we're really thankful today for the people who are willing to share their stories with us. And coming up next, we have Mary Pizzulo, who is actually an Insight client who actually wants to share her story about finding support and finding care through Insight and her journey. So thank you so much and welcome, Mary.
Ooh, good morning. I recently saw a photo on Instagram. Its heading says, "This is what depression looks like." And underneath it had photos of celebrities that have committed suicide. Robin Williams, Kate Spade, Lee Thompson Young. And what was jarring was the contrast between their smiling faces and the struggles that we now know they experienced. And we look at them and we think, how could they be depressed? Because we were all shocked when we heard of these news. And they were loved, right? They brought beauty and joy, delight, and laughter into everybody's lives. They were successful. They overcame odds. They were living their dream. They were also wearing a mask. And behind that mask, they were suffering. And I know that because I was just like them. I know that because I am still like them. My earliest memory is of missing school because we couldn't drive me to school. Now I'm from Philly and it snows all the time there. But this particular day, I remember feeling fear of falling behind, of upsetting my teachers, of missing that perfect attendance mark. I was in kindergarten. And I was already showing signs of depression and anxiety at that young age. And the lesson that I learned is I need to shrink myself to make others more comfortable. And what I didn't understand is that I was planting, these seeds were being planted and watered that would bear fruit of inadequacy, of emptiness, of loneliness. And over again, these seeds were watered to the point where shrinking myself became my rule of life. Through an abusive and alcoholic stepfather, bullying, sexual assault, and living in a household that ignored instead of addressed, I made it through because I retreated inside of myself. I buried things so deep, it took me a long time to find them again. And from that, more fruit was born, fruit of shame, of self-loathing, of a self-critic. That inner critic, it is relentless and persistent. Because even as I'm standing here right now, what I'm hearing is you're being overdramatic. It wasn't that bad. You are not as bad off as others. Because after all, I have friends, right? I did well in school. I'm doing well in my career. I have interests and hobbies and passions. What do I have to complain about? I was 31 when I attempted suicide twice. I didn't plan it, and I didn't understand what was happening in that moment. I just knew I wanted that pain and that hurt to just stop, to feel some relief and some peace. And thankfully, God sent small interruptions to snap me out of it. And the next morning, I went to work. But it wasn't until I was in a meeting, crying in a corner, that I thought, help is non-negotiable. And within a week, I was working with an incredible therapist who started this recovery process by addressing my nature and my nurture. My nature of a complex brain chemical imbalance, and my nurture of decades, I can't believe I can say that, decades of unprocessed grief and unresolved trauma. That process reached all the way back to 6-year-old Mary, who was terrified of missing school and started the healing process bit by bit. When I moved to Nashville, I could no longer continue seeing Verily, and I was anxious to start over again with somebody new, but I knew I had to keep going. And when in doubt, I Google it out. So I Googled Christian counselors and found Insight Counseling Center. And on their website, they have videos of talks that different therapists have given. And I watched them, and they were all great. But the one that resonated with me was Monet Shell's Cycles of Pain. And I thought, that's what it is. I need to stop these cycles of pain. And from our first meeting, I knew I had found the right fit. And that doesn't happen often. Sometimes you have to see different therapists before you find that right fit. But I found that right fit with Monet. She's supportive. She brings comfort and wisdom as I'm walking through this journey. And without Monet and without Insight Counseling, I wouldn't have made the progress that I have made. My quality of life has increased, even as I'm walking through a difficult time now, because of this organization. From the financial sliding scale to the intake process to the interactions that I've had, I felt like I've been handled with care. I feel like even Abby is rooting for me, and I just met her in person this morning. And I'm rooting for Insight Counseling. I'm on their side. My prayer, my sincere prayer, is that they have everything that they need to continue their mission. Every resource, every personnel, every tool and knowledge and thing that they need will be provided for them so that they can continue reaching out and growing and helping more people, because they are doing essential work. They are changing individual lives so that communities can flourish, so that cities can be restored, so that this wave of wholeness spreads out through our country. And I know that because they have changed my life, and I know that they are going to change others. Thank you.
Mary, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with us. Really appreciate that. So this morning we've heard from Joshua and Jordan and from Mary, who have highlighted the important and life-changing work that Insight Counseling Centers does. Can we give those three another hand clap, another round of applause? And now the rest of us here in attendance and at home have an opportunity to help support that work and keep it going forward through the gift of giving. As Pam mentioned earlier, all dollars raised, and as Mary mentioned as well, all dollars raised go directly to the care and support of Insight Counseling Center's clients and staff. I've known Pam for almost 15 years. I can tell you she is not driving a Bentley with any donations. And as Mary also highlighted, that in the sliding scale, it's so important. A lot of times, one of the barriers for people who seek need is thinking that counseling is too expensive, or the cost of counseling. And so there's several ways that you can support us today. We've got a secure portal on our website. And as someone who doesn't use Amazon and doesn't shop on the internet and doesn't have a credit card, I actually use it and trust it. We also accept donations through PayPal and Venmo, and there are also pledge cards on your table for those of you who'd like to fill out a pledge card today. And we also take checks, so staff members here will take checks. Raise your hand if you have a checkbook, just not being nosy, but I've got one. Usually, you say checks. I pulled out a checkbook a couple weeks ago, and my kids looked at me and they're like, "What's that? What kind of money is that?" And I was like, "It's a check." And they were like, "Oh, okay. Was there air conditioning when you were a kid?" And I was like, "Oh man, felt old." But we are taking checks today. Thank you again for everyone here attending in person, and thank you for everyone on the live stream. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate your support. And thank you again to all the wonderful staff members, clients, board members, friends, and supporters of Insight. And thank you also to our caterers today from Bacon and Caviar. The food was amazing and the service was great. So thank you all so much.